All right, everybody, we are now going to officially kick off the education portion of Women and Wealth 2015. Congratulations, you all made it this far. Wait. Okay, that's not how we clap at a Women and Wealth event, okay? We're talking about women and wealth. Woo! All right, now this event is very near and dear to my heart, obviously, for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm from Brooklyn. Okay, so is anybody here from Queens? All right, Queens. Do we have Staten Island? All right. Do we have Long Island? Okay, how about Florida? One? Okay, great. So I'm talking to the right people. Our sponsors came forward with open arms, and when we told them we were having a few of our friends and family members to come to this event, guess what they did? Oh, wait a minute. We have a seating thing over here? Are we all good? No woman left behind, right? Okay, because we have to give the sponsors some love, right? And we're all going to do it undistracted, okay? All right. So when we told our sponsors that we were having a few of our very close friends to celebrate women and they came forward with the yes, the wealth, the checkbook. So I would love if we could put our hands together for Investors Bank, who is our beverage vendor and sponsor. No, like you mean it. Just so that you know, and you can wave at them so they'll remember when we ask next year, they're waving to us. Let's all wave to them. All right, awesome. We also have a very, very wonderful chef on hand. Did you enjoy your light bites? It wasn't like it was my cooking, it was a chef. So let's put our hands together for Dining with Grace. She's building her brand, and it was awesome Pan-African food. It was lovely. So, that's right, the bites were good. And of course, let's put our hands together for none other than Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams. Now, he's going to be here in a little while, so I know you will show him the appreciation because he gave us not one room, not two rooms, but the entire run of house for this event. So he champions women and that's right, so good. Okay, so a little bit about my story, and while I'm telling you my very brief story, I'll make it the Reader's Digest version, the Twitter version, okay? How's that? Oh, speaking of Twitter, you can show us some love on Twitter tonight. Hashtag WW2015, okay? Hashtag WW2015, we're on Twitter, that's right. So a little bit about my story. I was born in a very humble beginning, and then I decided that there were people in life who had more, and somehow I couldn't understand why my beginning was so humble, because I'm from the boogie down. So you know what that was like, right? So my parents, who were very hardworking people, had a family band. So we would call it a conjunto, right? So we used to play around at different weddings and events and grand openings and things like that. And we would start going, as we got more popular, we started playing in people's mansions in Connecticut and on Fifth Avenue and the Penthouse. And it was like, I would walk in and be like, oh, wow. Kind of like in this place, right? Like, wow, look at the ceiling, wow. So I could never really understand the difference between what my family life was like, which was a good family, it was just tough times, and some families that had like the bathroom look better than my whole house. So I always had that in my mind that I was going to find out what the difference was. Was the difference in love? Did they love more or different or better? And I don't think that was the case, because some of these people were kind of crazy. at these events. They get really excited. So it really wasn't that. And as I continued my journey through life, I found out that they just knew how to handle. Exactly. And for some reason, people don't like to talk about. Money. Right. And I love to talk about. Money. Yes, I really do. And one of the reasons is, I think I broke the code. Thank you. I'm happy about that. And this is kind of what I realized, and I will like share with you. Okay, so most people learn about money at home, right? So what do you learn at home? Money doesn't. Right. So you learn that, right? Everybody got that? Right. The Bronx, Brooklyn got it. Okay, right. But then, do they tell you where money does grow? So, is that right? No. So guess what? I made it my mission in life that I was going to find out by asking a lot of questions and talking to a lot of people. And what happened was I fell in love with the concept, not of money, because I think love is more important than money. Because I'm only going to keep the lights on and pay the bills for somebody I love, right? Now, I do make my charitable donations too, okay? But I really feel that the love will motivate the money. But what I found along my journey as a female in particular, that women make less, right? That's one thing. Then the other thing is, in a lot of cultures like mine, I was taught that you go to school, you go to college, you get your degree, and then you get married, as my friend says, get married, right? So that makes your partner your financial plan, right? Is that a good financial plan, ladies? Okay. Okay, and then I thought that I would get you go to school and you get a good, right. Now, I don't want to say that a job is, for some people, just over, right, but are you going to get rich at work? No, not yet, right? You're still trying, right? Okay. Well, I heard one lady downstairs tell me that her job was more like a jail operating as a business. So if your partner won't do it and your job won't do it, right? How many people are going to hit the lottery this week? Okay, nobody that I know of, because I would like to invite you. Okay, but in any event, so I kind of saw that the difference wasn't in being a good person or having a good job. The difference was in asking the right questions, right? And one of the most powerful money questions that I asked and I learned to answer for myself and for others, which is why I became a financial professional, is a question that every 2-year-old will ask you all day and all night. Does anybody know what that question is? Okay, so let's say it together. 3, 2, 1. Right. So when you are making financial decisions, it's very important to know, right, because you want to build. Exactly. So that's what tonight is all about. Now, I know why I'm here. I'm here because I found the code, I found the secret, I found the cookie. I started building, taking the first step, the second step, not just with education and finding out what this language of money is, what is this code, what are they talking about? But I pursued it to learn it, understand it, and then implement. Hallelujah, amen. Because you know what it's like when you're thinking about going on a diet, right? Oh yeah. I'll get around to it, right? Well, when I finally stopped kidding myself, because I was like one of those people, I go to the financial thing, right, one of those things, and I would sit there, and they would say something, and everybody was responding, or maybe not, and in the back of my head, I'm asking my favorite question. And what I finally got to understand is the why is because it applied to me. And all I had to do was uncross my arms a little bit, floss out the ears, and be open to the possibility that little old me from the humble neighborhood in Sobro, as they call it, could actually get the money code and use it to my advantage, to become a homeowner, to become an investor, to become a financial advisor, to become somebody who could help other people in the community and help them build their hopes and their dreams. And that's why tonight is so powerful for me. And I am so thankful to the Brooklyn Borough President, to his program director, Sandra Chapman. She's over there. Can we just recognize her for a minute? She invited us in and she encouraged us. Invite more people. We need more people. We need more women because we want to build women in. All right, so please get comfortable saying that word because that's where we're going, okay? Okay, if it was the Pistons game or if it was the concert, we'd be like, yeah, this is it. So the other thing I wanted to say is that because I needed the flossing between the ear and put my arms down, open my mind, and really listen and understand, people had my best at heart. I made some awesome friends and mentors along the way who just happened to be women, right? And that somehow made it easier for me to open up, to really look at my financial situation and to see what could be improved to match up to my dreams. So if it's okay with you, and I hope it's okay, I would like to introduce to you somebody who has been to me a friend, a mentor, probably a part-time psychiatrist because, I'm from the Bronx. And she has helped me not only to build my finances and my career, but she's helped my dreams, my honest-to-God dreams, what my soul wants to come true. And she's done it with a great deal of patience and a lot of wisdom. And I hope you have a friend like this in your life. May I please introduce and may you please welcome Fradel Barber.
All right, let's give Candy a big round of applause. Doesn't she have energy? Wow. It is so awesome to be here tonight. This is the 4th year that we're doing Women and Wealth at Borough Hall, and it just seems that every single year we just need more and more space, and somehow we find it, right? Everybody has a chair, everybody's sitting and ready to learn. I want to start out by just telling a quick story. Some of you may be able to relate to this, but there was a woman that, actually a guy once came home to his home, and he pulls up in front of the house, normally, which is, one of those American dream homes, right? The white picket fence and everything looks neat. But when he pulled up this time, everything was a mess. I mean, the garage door was open, there was toys everywhere, the grass was uncut. And he walks into the house, and that sight just continued, where everything, laundry was on the floor, the TV was blaring, the radio was on. And the first thing, he got nervous. He started saying, "Honey, are you there?" And nobody was answering, so he went up the stairs, and that scene followed, right? The bathtub is overflowing, the toys are on the floor, and he finally finds his wife in the bedroom, laying on the bed, cuddled up in some PJs, reading a book. And he said, "Honey, what's going on here? Did you see the house? What's happening?" She said, "Honey, remember the other day you asked me, what do I do all day? Well, today I didn't do it." And women, we do everything, right? We run the home, we are in business, we have jobs, and it's interesting to see how much we control. And the topic today is what women really want. We want to be in control of our lives. And it's interesting because if you start looking at the numbers here, we are in control of a lot of our lives. In fact, if you look here, 95% of women will be their household's primary decision maker, okay? Along with that, they control $14 trillion worth of personal wealth. 22 is expected in the future, okay? So that's a lot of money that's being controlled by women. Looking further, that 40% of all households are actually, women are the sole or primary breadwinner. So you look at all those numbers and you say, wow, women at finance, it sounds pretty good. But then you look at, what do women make, okay? Average 0.78 to every dollar is earned as, woman to men as far as income. So those numbers don't actually go in line with women controlling what they want, as well as being in control of their finances. And so that's really what tonight is about learning how to take control of your financial future. And as we go through some tips and some financial concepts, I want you to think about how it applies to you, or maybe how you've never implemented some of those things, and then after tonight, really take some action. Because like Candy said, she had to clean her ears a little bit, but typically, some of this stuff, or maybe even most of it, you may even have heard of before. But when was the last time you took action? And that's really what I want to stress today, is that as we go through this, really think about, how does this apply to me? And to do that, I want to share, some numbers here of what are some concerns that women have. You look here at some statistics, 49% of women fear being that old homeless bag lady, right? Women, when it comes to money, have a different language. A lot of times men are always talking about, what was the highest rate of return? What did I make on my investment? Women like security. Women want to know that, when I retire, I'm going to have income. If something happens to me, my family will be taken care of. That's very important for many women. You also see here that 57% of them, outside of the fear of losing a spouse, what keeps them up at night is that they won't have enough money in retirement, right? Did that ever worry you? Some people just shove that thought under the carpet, right? It's not that you don't worry about it, you just don't think about it. But these are things that come up. And why does that worry women? Well, we live longer than men, right? In fact, it says that half of women over 65 outlive their husbands by 15 years. So if your significant other, or your husband, is the one that manages all the money, at some point for several years, you have to do that, right? So it's really about knowing what's going on in the household. Many times when I sit down with families to plan their financial future, a lot of times the husband will say to me, oh, it's okay, I take care of the finances. I said, you take care of it now, but what about if something happens to you, right? So it's very important that, in a family, in a household, that both people know what's going on. 62% of women do express interest in learning more about money, okay? So it's not that women don't want to know about it, right? 90% of women believe they need to be more educated in financial planning. So why doesn't this happen, right? Why is it that many women don't have a financial planner, or they haven't sat down and done it, or maybe their husbands or significant others have done it and they haven't taken advantage? I believe it's because there's a major lack of education that's geared towards women in the financial industry. When I started in this business 11 years ago, I did not come from the finance industry. In fact, if you asked me back then if I ever in a million years imagined myself doing this, I would never believe that this would be me now. I was actually studying fashion design. I had moved from New York, Brooklyn, New York, where I grew up, and I moved to California. I wanted to try out the wild, wild west, and just decided to go to school out there for fashion design, and little did I know, I ended up getting a job at a financial company, just to do while I was going to school. And before you know it, I'm building a business in this industry, educating all sorts of people about how to make their money work for them. And I saw the need so much because of where I came from. I grew up in Brooklyn, the oldest of 12 children. Anybody parents in the room here? Okay, I recently became a mom. I'm a mom 2 months ago. My little baby boy was born. I found a whole new respect for mothers. My mom always used to tell me, just you wait till you have a baby. Now I'm like, all right, it happened. But growing up in that family, we never had that financial education. In fact, when I started learning about some of these concepts, the first thing I did was call my parents and said, hey, what do you have? What type of life insurance do you have? Dad, what's your retirement plan? Nothing. They had nothing. I mean, 12 kids living at home, no protection, no plans for retirement. So suddenly I saw, wait a minute, if this is happening to my family, how many more families are out there, right? And unfortunately, the industry that we're in, the financial industry, tends to focus on the top 5% of income earners who earn a lot of money or have a lot of money to invest. And while that's great, there's a lot of people that are being left behind. And of those people that are being left behind, women tend to have a bigger percentage of that. And the reality is, you know, Wall Street is the boys' club. We recently moved our offices from Brooklyn to Wall Street to really make a difference in that environment and really bring not only financial education to the masses, but also to all different types of people. And one of the things that I'm passionate about is really teaching women about this topic to plan for their financial future, but also to get more women into this industry. The big reason of why a lot of women don't get this education is because they don't have anyone who talks their language, right? We talk a different language, okay? Women have their own language. Well, if most of the people are guys, then how are we talking, right? How are we connecting? How are we communicating? So that's really, you know, what we're here today is to learn about what do women want and how do we get that. And to do that, I want to kind of take you through the story of Sarah, right? Because we have many different types of people in this room, different ages, different stages of life. Some of you may have maybe done some financial planning. But we're going to go through the life of Sarah, and at every step of her life, kind of go into what does her finances look like, and what are some of the things that you should be focusing on at that age, and some concepts that you need to know, okay? So the first thing is any financial plan starts with these 6 fundamental things, okay? The first one, if you can't see it, I'll just read it for you. The first one is cash flow. You've got to understand what is coming in and what's going out, right? That's the first place to start before you do anything, right? Before you invest, before you plan anything, you've got to know what does your cash flow look like. And sometimes when you do that, you're going to be highly educated just by doing that, right? Just by taking into account what do you make and what do you spend. Some people get so educated they realize, wow, this is where all my money goes, okay? A great exercise to do that, if you've never done this before, is for 30 days, carry a little notebook, or nowadays we have our phones, right? And write down every single penny that you spend, where did it go, right? For 30 days. By the way, that's a hard thing to do. And I'm talking about everything. Like you go buy a bottle of water, you know, for $1, you write that down. And after 30 days, you're gonna realize where your money goes, okay? We know where our money comes from most of the time, unless you make so much of it that you can't keep track, right? But most of the time you know where it comes from, but where does it go, right? Sometimes we feel like we have holes in our pockets. So number one is cash flow. The second thing is debt management, right? You know, when I started in this business, I was $30,000 in credit card debt. And debt, you know, is a big reason of why people are depressed and divorce, you know, suicide. It's a really big deal because who wants to owe anybody anything, let alone be charged interest on top of that and sort of feel like you're drowning. So debt management is a very important thing because you've got to get a handle of how to manage your debt. And a lot of times it's just by taking a look at what you have and understanding what to tackle first. One of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of times people will try to pay off their lowest balance first, okay? The reality is you need to pay off your highest interest rate first, okay? Because it doesn't matter what the balance is, it's the interest rate that is actually money that's going out of your pocket. And so if you're paying off a low balance that has low interest, you have another balance that's actually accumulating a lot more, and it's going to take you a lot more time to pay it off. So having a plan for that. Then what's important is an emergency fund, right? Why do most people get into debt to begin with? Well, that's because their credit card is actually their emergency fund, right? So what's important is that even if you're in debt, it's important that while you're getting out of debt, you're also saving for an emergency. You should have at least 3 to 6 months worth of savings to be able to actually have that as your emergency fund as opposed to putting that money on credit card. Now, before we get into the last three steps, we're going to kind of just take a real brief pause here because we are honored to have, you know, be in the home of and also have a very special speaker. So I'm going to just bring Candy up for one moment to introduce our guest speaker. Go ahead.
Are you having a good time at Women In? Yeah. Women In? Wow. Women In? Wow. Women In? Wow. All right. I'm having a ball as always. So it is my honor. You know when you reach out to a person who's so important and so busy and so involved and so active, and you know you need this person's influence. Do you have anybody like that in your life? Well, if you know it or if you don't, we all do right now tonight, because remember I told you the host who let us have the run of the entire house, the marble floors, the marble pillars, the security guards, the ceilings. And I am loving it because it's helping us to focus on building women in. Would you please stand up, and even in the overflow room, and help give a warm welcome and thank you to our #1 sponsor tonight, Brooklyn Borough President Eric L. Adams.
We want to get back to the topic of making money, and we have a rule here in Borough Hall. You do not stand for me, I stand for you. I was not put in office to be served, I was put in office to serve. There are too many people who get it mixed up. They believe that it's about being self-servant instead of being a public servant. I'm a public servant. I spent my life protecting the people of this city as a police officer, and was fortunate enough to be blessed to become state senator, and now Borough President as I move to the next 7 years to become the mayor. So I gotta love you as much as possible, Let me say this. This Woman in Wealth and what Sandra and the team has put together, it is so important because it's about being healthy. And being healthy means that we are financially healthy, we are physically healthy, and we are emotionally healthy. And it's not about just finding one of the trilogy, they all go together. And I think about the saying of a caterpillar looking up at a butterfly and saying, "You will never get me in one of them," without realizing that eventually the caterpillar will evolve to a butterfly and ask themselves, how did I ever crawl on the ground in the first place? And so often we have crawled in our lives, and instead of realizing that we can take flight, and by finding our financial space, our financial place, and at the same time moving to ensure that we are healthy physically, and then finding inner peace and finding our purpose and ensuring that the partners in our lives, both those who help us in employment and those who are our lovers, and being close to the people who are dear to us. I'm extremely close to my mother, and you could always judge a person by that, because you will never be solid as a man if you don't respect the womb you came out of and you don't respect the womb you're trying to go into. And so Borough Hall is your space. This is your place. You should use it often. This place is alive with so much energy. In the last year and 6 months, folks who have never been here before have passed by this building and felt as though this was some historical location where you can empower yourself. Those days are over. This building should be used as often as possible. You should walk through it. As you go downtown, you should be able to look at this building and reflect on moments that something happened that inspired you. The oldest governmental building in the borough of Brooklyn, which used to be a city, the 4th largest city in America now, if it was a city with 2.6 million people, and 47% of the people speak a language other than English at home. This is an amazing borough and an amazing place. If we allow ourselves to be engaged in what this borough has to offer, you will be surprised of what you could accomplish. Break out of the silos that we live in and exist in. Go out and expand your reach and see the beauty of this borough. If you are Baptist, go hang out in a synagogue or a mosque. If you're Jewish, go to a Baptist temple. Eat something different, experience something different. Be a part of this experience that we call Brooklyn. Don't allow it to go past you and you realize that you missed the golden moment of diversity in this borough. The greatest challenge we have is not that people are physically prematurely dying. It's that what is dying inside of people while they are alive. Norman Cousin was right. It's about being alive. And that's what I want to do as borough president. No matter what happened previously in this borough, we're the good place. We're the great borough president that brought us to this level. But now the time is right. The time is right for me to be the borough president. The time is right. So the goal of today is how do we take our dollars, our nickels, our dimes? How do we take the popularity of this brand and turn it into prosperity? How do we make sure that everyone benefits for what Brooklyn has become? And so we can't thank this team enough. The overflow room downstairs, you who are up here, being able to get these basic tips of turning around our lives and becoming financially sound so that we can do the things that we would like to do. It is not about just surviving, it's about thriving. And you can thrive when you find your purpose, your level, your even off point. And enjoy yourself in the process. And I tell brothers all the time, I see a few sprinkled around here, you know, we men need candles in hot tub baths also. Nothing wrong with that. We got to balance this out and enjoy it in the process. Thank you for coming out. Continue to be the great leaders that you are. We have an organization that we started. Sandra's going to let you know when it's when you wrap up. It's called 10,000 Concerned Brooklynites. What we have learned is that good people keep passing each other. So we have created a way where good people can connect with each other, and we're going to start doing meetups. If your passion is domestic violence, you need to know other people in this borough, in the city, who's doing that. If your passion is around youth, if your passion is around health care, we want to put you in the place with people who are think like you, because like minds should be together and move together. Bad people are organizing, so good people must organize, and we must come together as a unit. Thank you, and welcome to your house, Brooklyn Borough Hall.
All right, let's give it up for Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams. Excellent. So, who remembers where we're up to? I do. So what did we talk about? Real quick recap. Cash flow, right? Debt management. Also having an emergency fund so that you don't get back into debt. So even though while you're paying off your debt, putting a little bit aside for that emergency fund. Then we have asset accumulation, which is growing your wealth. Okay, we're going to talk about that tonight also. Very important concept. Proper protection. See, if you get out of debt, you create your emergency fund, you build your assets, but then something happens to you, right? You're the breadwinner, and suddenly money stops coming in. You go to work, and suddenly you can't. What happens to your whole financial foundation that you built? Collapses, right? There must be a foundation, and that's having proper protection with different types of insurance. And then lastly is estate preservation. Hopefully, if you've done everything right, you pass that on to your beneficiaries without, most of that money going to Uncle Sam, right? So we're going to talk about all these 6 areas and how they relate to different parts and different stages of your life. So let's start the story of Sarah. Sarah is currently in her 20s, right? She's just getting into a career. She's a new graduate with an accounting degree, and she's starting as an entry-level accountant, okay? Some of you might be able to relate if you're during that stage. So what does her financial situation look like at this time? Well, let's take a look at her assets. Her assets are probably pretty low, right? You just finished college. Maybe you have some savings that you're trying to build up with your new job, but the debts are there, right? There's the college loans, maybe a car loan, rent that has to be paid. Those are things that are in that picture as well. So what are some concerns that Sarah has at this age? Well, one is getting out of debt, right? How many of you know someone or are in student loan debt? Okay, Probably more than who raised their hand, but a lot of it, right? So that's a big concern for Sarah. The other thing, and some of you might be surprised with this, is retirement. And the reason why that's important, even though Sarah's just starting her career, why is it important to think about retirement as soon as you start your career? And to explain that, I want to give you two concepts that are two rules about money, okay? The first one is income minus spending equals surplus, okay? I'll say that again. Your income minus your spending is your surplus. Now, your surplus, which is the money that you have left over, two things happen. One is it gets spent, and one is it gets saved, okay? So what do I mean by that? Everyone has a fixed expenses that they have every month. Those are the things that happen just to live. Your rent, your food, if you have a car or maybe your cell phone, those are things that every single month you know it's going to be the same. But then there's the money that you don't know where it goes, right? Or it just kind of dwindles out of your pocket. So that's actually surplus that gets spent. And then hopefully after tonight, your surplus will be saved. That's rule number one. The second one is surplus times time is wealth. Surplus times time is wealth. So Sarah, who's in her 20s, she may not have a lot of surplus, but what does she have? Time, right? When you're young, you've got more time to let your money work for you if it's in the right place. And that is a very key concept to understand, because a lot of times young women are not thinking that way. They're thinking in the moment. They're thinking, I want to get rid of my debt. They're not thinking what's going to happen in 20, 30 years. But that's actually the time to start thinking about it. Let me show you this example. If you can't see this, I'll tell you what it says. This just shows you the high cost of waiting, okay? I talk to a lot of young women, and a lot of times they tell me, but I'm just going to wait till I finish paying off my credit card. I'm going to wait till I finish paying off my student loan. Let me just wait till I buy a house or, get married or whatever it is. But here's the cost of waiting. This is an example of someone who their goal is to have $1 million when they retire. Now, by the way, that might sound like a big number, but when you have to live off of that for the rest of your life, it's not that much. So the goal is $1 million. This person's earning an 8% rate of return. And you can see on the bottom there is the number of years they have towards retirement. So someone like Sarah in her 20s has a good 40 years to plan for retirement. So to hit that goal, she would just need to save $286 a month. For most people, that's pretty doable to take some of their surplus and put it away. But what if she doesn't do that, right? What if she sat in a room like this and didn't implement some of that advice? Well, look what happens when you have only 30 years left. Now that number is $670 to hit the same goal. And even worse, if you only have 15 years left, now it's $2,800. And if you have 5 years left, it's over $13,000 a month to hit that same goal. Right? Here you can see that the cost of waiting is very high. To hit the same exact goal, you can be putting away very little if you have that time. So let's move on in the story. Now Sarah's in her 30s, right? She got married to Daniel, and she has 2 kids, Katie's 6 and Joshua's 3, and she also got promoted in her company. Now she's a mid-level manager. So let's see what the situation looks like now. First of all, she's got more assets, right? One, because she started making money, and also she's combined her income with her husband. So now they were able to get a house, they have savings, she has an IRA and a 401k, which are retirement plans through her job, but she still has the debt, right? She still has some credit cards, she's got a car loan, she has the mortgage, and of course she also has the kids. So what are her concerns? Well, she's still concerned about debt management, and retirement, but there's some new things. She also she's also caring about her child care, right, and college planning for her children. Also, insurance, right, life insurance. She's concerned that if something happens to her, how will her family survive? Okay, so those are some of the things that are important to talk about. Specifically when it comes to children or anyone that relies on your income. Sometimes it's not only children, sometimes it's parents too. If someone relies on your income, it is very important to have proper protection so that if something happens to you, there's funds that are being provided. And that is in the form of life insurance. One of the biggest questions that I get is how much do I get? How much life insurance is the right amount? And it's a very varied answer. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It depends on your age, how many kids you have, your health, your debt, your income, and also what you can afford. The rule of thumb is really 10 times your income. Okay, if you want just a general number, you should have 10 times your income because typically your beneficiaries will be able to live off of that until they're self-sustaining on their own. But as Sarah's planning, there's a lot of moving parts with having a family, right? And at this age, it's very important to build a financial foundation. And a financial foundation has 4 cornerstones, okay? These are the 4 cornerstones of really getting your whole financial picture and making your money work for you. The first one is growth, okay? Your money's got to be able to grow. So let me ask you this. How many of you have a savings account? Okay. What does your savings account earn you? If you don't know, don't bother checking, okay? It's probably less than 1%, and so it will take a long time to grow, right? So the growth factor is not necessarily there. Now, does anyone have any investments? Stocks, mutual funds, 401k, right? Does that have the ability to grow more than 1%? Yes, it does. However, anybody have investments in 2008, right? Maybe your 401k became a 201k, possibly, right? Yes, investments can grow, but they can also lose. And that's where the second cornerstone comes in, is safety. Making sure that you have safety instruments in place that if the market does go down, you're protected, okay? The next one is protection. We kind of touched on that, is making sure that your financial foundation is still there if you are no longer there, right? That could be in the form of life insurance, disability insurance. If you're older, it could be long-term care. There's many different forms of protection, but it could also be protection on your money, right? There are ways to protect your money from the downsides of the market through different financial vehicles. But it's important when you're going through that process of, even if it's your first time investing or maybe taking a look at your current financial profile, is making sure that you have that in there. And the last one is taxes, okay? There are many ways to be able to minimize or avoid taxes on the growth of your money. Obviously, we're all gonna pay income taxes, right? But there's certain financial vehicles where you can defer taxes, which means that you won't pay taxes every year on the growth of your money, and some where you can actually take the growth of your money out tax-free. So really taking a look at what you have in your portfolio and making sure, do I have these 4 cornerstones, right? Are they a part of my financial picture? And as you're building it, and this really applies to any age, but if you're starting to build that wealth, and you're starting to take that surplus and invest it and start making money, you want to make sure that it will remain with you all the way to the end. And that's why these are very important. So now Sarah's in her 40s, right? Unfortunately, she got divorced, okay, like many women do. So understanding the idea of doing it on your own is really important right now. Her kids are growing up. They're now 16 and 13. She's now a junior executive at her job, so definitely moving up the corporate ladder. Her assets, she still has all those things, but they're a little less now, right? Because now there's not 2 incomes. And she's also still has some of those concerns that she had before, but now it's a little bit less household wealth, and she also has a new concern, okay? Sarah has a mother that now needs long-term care. So while she's still taking care of her children, she's now also caring for elderly parents. And that happens to a lot of women as well, where now you're juggling 2 things in your financial picture too, while still trying to plan your own financial future. So what happens here? What's important? Remember the wealth formula here, right? Surplus, time. The time portion is going down a little bit, right? So now it's even more important to make sure that the surplus actually builds wealth. And in that is a concept that we call the rule of 72. Albert Einstein called this the 8th wonder of the world. And the rule of 72 is a very simple formula. It says like this: if you want to figure out how long it will take for your money to double, right? Think about that. When you saved your money in your savings account, did you ever think about when will it double, or you're just kind of trying to save, right? Well, if you're trying to earn interest on your money and have that money work for you, that's something important to think about. So here's how you figure it out. You take the number 72 and divide it by the interest rate that you're earning, okay? We're not gonna do the 1% example because that will scare most of you out of this room, right? But let's just say, you took the example of 4%, right? 72 divided by 4, that means every 18 years your money will double. That would take quite a while for it to double. So let's take an example. If you had $10,000 that was earning 4%, by the time you're 65, that would be $40,000. Whoopee-doo, right? When you retire, you're gonna need a little bit more than that. But let's see the difference. What if you were earning 12% or 10%, right? At 12%, same time frame, same amount of money, you have $640,000 by the time you're 65. Now, a lot of you are thinking, well, where do I get 12%? Well, it's not going to happen if all you have is a savings account, right? You have to make sure that you're diversified into other things. So this is the understanding of the rule of 72, which is making sure that your money's growing. But what did we say was the second financial foundation? Safety, right? Yeah, there's places where you can get 12%, but you can sure lose 12% too, right? And what's important to understand about investing is that whatever percentage you lose, it takes more than gaining that percentage back to get up to even. So for example, if you, let's say, had $100 in the market, right? And it was invested in 2008, market went down by 50%, how much do you have left? $50, okay? Now market goes up by 50%, right? You're looking at your rate of return and you're pretty happy. Wow, I earned 50%. But you forgot about how much you lost, right? In fact, if you look at the dollar amount, you didn't even break even. Why? Because 50% off of 50 is 25, which means all you have is $75. You'd actually need the market to go up 100% just to break even. Does that make sense? And that's why it's very important to look at rate of return, but it's even more important to look at what actual dollar amount do I have in my account. And those are two things that are very important. So yes, we need to grow, but we also need to make sure that this doesn't happen. Now Sarah's in her 50s, right? She's remarried to Steven. Together they have 4 adult children. She's now the CFO of her company, so she's definitely moving up. Looking at her assets, it's definitely growing. She's doing the right things. What are some of her concerns? Well, one added concern now is long-term care for herself. For those of you who are not familiar with long-term care, healthcare costs are one of the biggest expenses that people have in retirement. And in fact, they say that for an average couple, it will cost them $220,000 in healthcare costs for long-term care. So when you look at that and you look at planning for your retirement, that's something that has to come with it as well. So why is this important for women? Well, look at the number of women in nursing homes. 70% of residents are women, right? And 75% of assisted living community residents are women. So obviously we're living longer, but we also have to make our money live longer, right? So that's a big concern to take a look at, and there's ways of protecting yourself from that, as opposed to not having enough money for long-term care or having to use all your assets. Imagine if Sarah built up all those assets over those years, and now she's got to downsize those assets to pay for the long-term care. And if any of you have ever dealt with an elderly person in this capacity, you know exactly how that works. But it's something that you can protect before it happens. And typically, this is the age that you start thinking about that. Now Sarah's in her 60s. She's thinking now about, first of all, she's a widow now, right? Women outlive men. So unfortunately, her second husband passed away. And now she's thinking about her own retirement. Okay? She's mentoring her replacement at her work. She's thinking about, how am I going to retire? So what are some things that are important to her at this time? Obviously, she still has all those investments, but now she's very concerned about a few things: Social Security, taxes, and estate planning. Why are those of concern? Well, let's take a look at this. What do most people plan on for retirement? And this is the example of a 3-legged stool, right? Back in the day, people would rely on a few things. First of all, Social Security, okay? Now, have any of you seen a Social Security statement lately? You probably didn't, just because they stopped sending them out. Okay, now you got to go online. Now, when you see it online, most people, what they look at is the second page, which has all your numbers. So it says, when you reach, 62 or 67, this is what you're going to get. However, most people don't read the first page, which says that there's some issues with that trust fund, right? It's a question mark. It's probably still going to be around, but we don't know how it's going to be around. The second thing that it also tells you is that Social Security was not intended to be your sole source of income when you retire. You also need savings and investments. So imagine this three-legged stool with only one leg, right? Not going to hold up. So that's really one of the key ways that people plan to retire, and it's not going to be enough. The second one is pensions, right? How many of you work at a job that when you leave, they're going to pay you the same income of when you leave, of what you're making now? Pensions are almost extinct, okay, especially for typical corporations. So while people used to rely on that, now it's 401ks with matching if you're lucky, right? Maybe your employer puts some money in for you, but it's not a guaranteed income for when you retire. So what is left? What is left for people to rely on is you. You've got to plan for your own retirement. But what's the challenge with that is our savings, right? A lot of times, your savings, sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down, and making that money work for you. But what's important here is the three-legged stools of retirement is making sure that you have all three, or you rely on your own to be able to plan for that. The other thing that's important for retirement income, especially for women, is outliving their money. So let's say you did everything right? You got that compound interest, you planned, you saved, and now you retire. Now we live for a longer time, so the money has to last longer. Does that make sense? So that's a number that we also have to factor in, is not just what's that number? Is it going to be $1 million or $2 million or $500,000 for when I retire, but how am I going to survive with longevity for the rest of my life and being able to rely on that money? So there's certain financial vehicles where you can actually create a personal pension, sort of like how a company would do that for you back in the day. Now you can do it on your own so that you are creating that income when you retire and you won't have to worry. So again, that's what Sarah's considering right now. The other thing, and this is a big one, is taxes, okay? So again, let's say everything was done right, and now it's time for the distribution of all those assets. Everything that was saved over those years, now it's time to actually receive that income. Well, I want you to take a look and see the difference of, depending on how your assets are taxed, the difference in the dollar amount. So this is that same example of someone saving over those years, and if you see, the red portion is someone who has what's called a taxable account. So this would be if you have a mutual fund, a stock, a savings account. Every single year, you're probably going to get a 1099 at the end of the year, and you have to pay taxes on any earns that were made in that investment. So it doesn't allow you to grow as quickly because you're constantly having to pay the taxes. The second one, which is the blue one, is the tax-deferred account. Tax-deferred account means that you didn't pay taxes every year, but once you started taking the money out, then you pay taxes every single year. So many of you might have an IRA or a 401k. You're not paying any taxes right now, but come after age 59 and a half, or whatever age you decide to retire, every single year that you access that money, it's considered ordinary income, and you have to pay taxes on it. So, I think this is an area that a lot of times people get misguided, is that they don't have to pay any taxes. You will have to pay the taxes, just not right now. And conceptually, I want you to think about, the difference between being taxed on a seed or a harvest, right? If you were a farmer and you had the choice, would you get taxed on that seed, which means when you bought the seed, you get taxed, and then you'd have the whole harvest without having to pay taxes? Or vice versa, are you going to not pay taxes on the seed, but once you have that whole harvest, you're going to pay taxes on all of it? And that's really the difference here. And because the last category is tax-free. And there are different strategies that you can use to be able to get a tax-free distribution, not on your income, but on your assets. And that's really key because the difference here, and I'm not gonna read off the numbers, but you can just see the levels of the bars, if you can read the numbers back there, that it's a big difference in terms of what your income is gonna be if you don't have to pay taxes on that harvest. These are little things that, again, saving the same amount of money, but having a different outcome at the end is really what we're talking about here. So coming down to the end here, what does Sarah's future look like, right? What does your future look like? And when we look at, all these different concepts and see how does it apply to you, the first thing that has to be understood is taking a look at what your personal situation is, because everyone's in a different place. Not everyone, it's not a one-size-fits-all, and it's something that every single person has to take a look at what their situation is. And, kind of shifting this a little bit to the first step that we talked about, which was the cash flow. Okay, we know that cash is king, right? The more money you have, the easier all of what we're talking about here today is. And so, when you look at how women are in corporate America or even as an entrepreneur, the numbers are quite staggering, okay? We talked about, 78 cents to the dollar, or 76 cents, whatever it was earlier. But within the financial industry, what's interesting is they did a survey, this I actually saw on 24/7 Wall Street, that 3 out of the top 5 occupations that have the largest gender wage gap are in finance. Okay, so there's a lot of industries that have, men making more money than women, but actually out of the top 5, 3 of them were in finance. So what does that tell you? That tells you that there's a big gap, not only in all incomes, but especially in finance. And as I mentioned before, there's not enough women out there teaching people about money. That's really where it starts. When you say the big difference, this is just so you see the numbers. As a personal financial advisor, on average, a male median weekly income is a female is $1,004 versus $1,637 per week. That's a huge difference, right? And what we want to do is really close that gender gap. Close that gender gap not only in the income, but with the people that are giving that advice. And that's really where World Financial Group, what we're trying to do is, number one, as I mentioned before, educate people about how money works, but also help people understand and get into this industry so that they can spread that advice and to the people that really need it, and specifically to females and women all over. So we're actually on a major expansion looking for, so if anything today kind of rang a bell, not just for you personally in your own personal financial situation, but maybe as a career choice. I recently, like I mentioned, had a baby, and for a month, I didn't step into the office. I didn't answer a single phone call, do a conference call, and it was actually the first time that I truly appreciated being an entrepreneur in this industry. Before it was kind of fun, I was learning something new, and then it was mentoring people and all this, but when I got to not go, because it was my choice, because I had the freedom to stay home if I wanted to, that was when I really saw what building a business in this industry can do. And so we're looking for people that also want that, but that also want to help educate other women in this industry. And I want to have 3 very special women come up to just share their story as we close this evening out of how taking action made an impact for them. So if I can have Jenny Rodriguez, Simi DaCosta, and Janae Malloy come on up here. And you're just going to get to hear, let's give them a hand. You're going to get to hear just 3 different stories of how learning about this stuff and implementing it really affected their life. So let's start with Jenny.
Well, hello everybody. Hello, hi. Well, I'm a little nervous, but I'm okay. Okay, well, my name is Jenny Rodriguez Minchala. I don't like to leave behind the last name of my father, okay? Well, I'm from Ecuador. I'm a Latina. Where are the Latina women? Woohoo! Great. I'm representing you women. I'm super excited to see here all of you women here, like to see all of us together, like to learn about success, because oh my God, this has been the best. This is my first Woman in Wealth, but I'm enjoying it a lot. okay? First of all, I want to thank you so much, Fredo Barber, my coach, my mentor, for giving me this opportunity, right? What I'm going to explain you today, basically today, is how WFG, how this opportunity had changed my life in 3 months, okay? I'm in this company basically just since December, which I was appointed with this company. So imagine today I can say before basically I had my own agency, making a lot of money, okay? Which basically I was an entrepreneur, making more money than having a job. But right now here, being 3 months, I had made more money that I made in a year having my other agency. So imagine how my life had changed, okay? And you, women, can do the same thing, okay? Because one of the things that this company, this organization, what Fredo has is a proven system, basically, that I have followed, and we all the leadership, basically, the SMDs are part of this organization. This system is the best. If you decided to join us today, or if you decide basically to build your business with our help, this is going to help you a lot, okay? Why? Because everybody can accomplish anything. Women, we are like leaders, since we are born. We cook, okay? We do dishes, whatever, we go for cleaning, whatever, we do everything. I'm a mom, okay? I'm going to talk because I have a beautiful experience of having a boy, a 1-year-old boy, handsome boy, okay? My husband says, he's like, I'm okay, yes, fine. Okay, look, if women are our mother, to have a child, to give a birth, okay, is really painful, okay? I know, it's really painful. For those who have baby, you know what I'm talking about. And for those women that are going to have baby, you're going to go through that, okay? But imagine we go through that, and we're still here, okay? Imagine that pain. Imagine what we can accomplish in life if we go through that pain. I don't know if imagine that pain is so hard. Imagine what women we can accomplish in life. Not just in this business, but in whatever business we're doing. Basically, we can do whatever we want, okay? I wanted to say that because imagine if we just decide to do something, to be part of this company, or to grow your business with our help, it's in your decision. The power that we have is so great, women. And one of the things I'm going to say, don't never let anybody, not even a man, nor your boss, to tell you what you have to do and that you cannot do it. God bless you. See you at the top.
Wow, that was amazing, and thank you, Fredo. She gave us wonderful, powerful information. I cannot say thank enough to her. How is everyone doing so far? Awesome, awesome. My name is Sime DeCosta. I am a stay-at-home mom with 2 beautiful children. My daughter is 5.5, and my son, he just started 3 last week. So it's just amazing to see them every day, and watching them grow, and how amazing it is that to have in a moment of going through the situation. And I became a stay-at-home mom because of my 2 little kids. Before that, I used to work for the law firm, and also I was in the publishing company for many, many years. So I was in the corporate world, and I know how that world works. And now I'm an entrepreneur, so I know how both world works. So I have experience in both sides. But before, when I was working, I live in Long Island, and I used to work in Manhattan. So commuting and everything, it took me almost 3 hours every day out of my life. And on top of it, working 7, 8 hours, I was almost 11, 12 hours out of the house every day. And I barely saw my daughter. When I left home, she was sleeping. And when I came home, she was getting ready to sleep. So I have only a few hours to kind of bond with her, to connect with her. And when I thought, I'm like, isn't it supposed to be the motherhood? Is this what I actually wanted, when I became a new mother? Because just think about those moments. How many parents we have in here? Just raise your hand. We have a lot of parents, right? Just think about this moment when you first time became a mother. You held that little baby in your hand. You looked at their little, face, their feet, their body, and it doesn't matter what you thought. You just say, you know what? No matter what happens, mommy will always be there for you. And that's what I thought. So, just thinking about those moments, it still gives me a goosebump, because I can still go back 5.5 years ago and think of my daughter when I held her first time. But one day, all those visions and dreams kind of like shattered my world. And I was almost going to this, I stayed home for 6 weeks and then went back to work, just like many of you when you go back to work, right? Who wanted to, he couldn't wait to go back to work after 6-7 weeks. Not a single person, right? I thought of many things to quit my job and stay home with her so I could give her the time that she needed. But I couldn't because I needed the money, right? So I did it almost 2 years. Every single day, I dragged myself out of bed, out of home to go to the office. But when I came home, I couldn't wait to hold her. And I had only a few hours, that's it. So, I did it over almost 2.5 years. And I was already an emotional train wreck. But when she was 18 months, my husband and I found out that my daughter was diagnosed with PDD. And if you didn't know what is PDD, that's in the autistic spectrum. So that moment, my whole world shattered. I cried so much. I'm probably going to cry now. Excuse me for that. But I did not expect that, when I became a mother for the first time. And I was like, okay, I missed all her life, 2.5 years, and now I'm finding out that she's in the spectrum. What am I supposed to do? And how her world's going to be? And with my full-time job, how am I going to support her? How am I going to be next to her all the time that she needed? I left her with someone else to raise my baby. I didn't know if that person was there whenever she needed all the things that she needed. Still, that wasn't, mother love. That wasn't me giving her everything, right? So I did it almost 2.5 years, and then, we were blessed with our son, and I decided to make a big decision in my life. I quit my job. I stayed home. I became a full-time stay-at-home mom. Financially, we took a huge, huge hit on it. But the decision that I made, I would not trade it for anything at all, never, ever. So that was the huge decision I ever made. So I stayed home for almost 1.5 years, and then, having a house, having 2 kids, and, having a wife at home, my husband is like, okay, you gotta do something now, right? You gotta find a job. We can't afford this anymore. So I was looking for something, not full-time, something like part-time, so I can still take care of my daughter and my son and make some money. So even part-time requires some time, right? You gotta go there and not on your term, on their term. So I was looking for more like a flexible thing. So then, I was introduced to this company through my friend, my accountant actually. I've known him more than 10 years. So then I went to the office one day and I kind of saw what they do for the family and how they're helping the family and how they're making the differences in everybody's life. See, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, in corporate world, we go to work every day, we help people, we help them to make their dreams come true. But here, they help us, they help families like you to make their dreams come true. It's a huge difference. So when I saw that, what they do for the family, I didn't even think twice. I went, not full-time, but flexible time because I needed the time with my family. That was more important to me. So I started there as a flexible time on my own terms, and I started helping families, and many things that I didn't even learn when I was in corporate world, making salary, good salary, but things that I've learned now, working with them, it made a huge difference in my life, not just financially, and also as a family that are growing together, and also every single day that everybody work here, they're making, touching everybody's heart somehow. They're helping everybody, and that's amazing, and I love being there whenever I can, and I couldn't be, more appreciative more than anything. So they are like my second family to me. That's how I look at them. So because of that, I really thank Fredo, because if she didn't come from California to here, open up this office, none of us would be standing here today and would be talking to you guys. So it's really my privilege. I think that it's a privilege to become, part of the WFG. So thank you for your time.
Good evening, ladies. How are you? Let's try that again. Good evening, ladies. How are you? Good evening, ladies in the overflow room downstairs. How are you? I hear you. Wave at me, ladies. All the ladies wave at me. In the overflow room, wave at me. All right? I want you to turn to your neighbor to your right and to your left and say, I'm glad you're here tonight. right? I challenge some of you are in this room, some of you are downstairs. I challenge some of you to meet some people. Where are you? I challenge some of you to meet some people, 5 people. Nobody wants to raise their hand because you think I'm going to ask you how many people you met, right? I know you're in here. And I ask you, there you go. She's like, it's me, right? It's you? Okay, at least one brave one. I got another brave one back there. But ladies, I'm so excited you're here tonight. You guys just brighten my spirit just to know that you're here, that you came out to do something different, to change your lives, to get some new information, right? So you're put here for a specific purpose tonight, and I'm glad I'm here to take part in that. Thank you for allowing me into your lives. I appreciate you for that. Give yourselves a hand. My name is Janae Malloy, and I just want to share with you a little bit of myself. Is that okay with you? Can I do that tonight? I want to share with you what I call my 3 Fs, right? Not fabulous, 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 but you know. They're faith, family, and finance. You see, about 5 years ago, I prayed a prayer. And I call him Jesus. I'm going to try not to preach tonight, no sermons, right? But I said, could you please send into my life people who genuinely care about me, genuinely care about my personal development, my spiritual development, my emotional, my mental development. Could you please? You see, that prayer came from someplace, right? It says, the words of my mouth came from the faith in my heart. In the same way, our words are the outcome of our faith, right? So you got to have faith in the things that you want, in the things that you envision, in the things that you dream of. So when I asked him this in wholehearted faith, he delivered. And I didn't know how he was delivering. When he delivered it, I was saying, why me? You see, because how this all started was, I've been in real estate for about 20 years. I know we got a bunch of realtors in the audience and people who want to get into the real estate business. I had been in that industry for about 20 years. I started straight out of high school, straight out of college, because I had gotten tremendous amounts of debt. My mother said, you better get a job, right? And I said, oh my God, because you know, in college, right, they go catch the Frisbee and catch the credit card, right? That's how they treat you, right? So I caught the Frisbee and I caught every credit card they gave me, right? And I just went swipe crazy. And with that, I came home, and my mother said, you got to get a job. You know, this is crazy. You're ruining your life before you even gotten started. When she was right? So my godmother called me up, and she said, listen, she has a real estate firm. Why don't I come work for her in her firm? And I said, okay, no problem. And that's how I got into real estate. And I was doing really well. But you know what the market does, right? It does up, and it does what? Comes down. It goes up, and it comes down. So after the market in 2008, 2007 took a tremendous crash, and my whole life kind of fell apart, right? I almost lost my homes. I lost homes. I almost lost the one that I live in, and I went through a lot, you know? But the market started to recover, and I was persistent because this was my career, and this is what I did, and this is what I was solid in. So I stayed in there. And when it got better, I had been promised my mother for years that I would take on vacation. So I took her to the Caribbean for about 3 weeks, right? Because I worked for myself, right? But I also worked by myself. So I took on a trip to the Caribbean. We came back, and I'm working hard because I work for myself and by myself. So I'm working hard till like midnight every night in this real estate business trying to make things work. And I'm driving home one night really late at night, and I'm on this street, and another woman's on this street, and she's making a sharp turn, and she blows through the light, hits me, knocks me halfway down the block, you know, like hit the front of my car, the driver's door, and tore off my rear axle. Only by the grace of God I stand before you today. You know, but sometimes, it's okay, you can clap, but sometimes, you know, they say that when you try to build muscle, the muscle got to first break down before it can build up. Do you understand what I'm saying? So sometimes you got to go through some things to really appreciate where you're at so you can get stronger in the process. So what happened to me in that process was that as I began to go through months and weeks of surgery and physical therapy and all these things, someone came and spoke to me. They spoke to me about a company called World Financial Group. And they told me how this company helped families. And I said, oh, that's good. My clients could use that. That's what I said. Somebody else could use that, right? But what I really didn't know was that I needed that. I needed what this company did. I needed how they helped change families' lives, right? You see, that's the F in family, and the F in my 3 Fs, right? Family, faith and family. Because here I also discovered a family. You see all these guys, see these lovely guys in their tuxes looking magnificent? Don't they look great? Give them a hand. They've been incredible. Give them a hand. We appreciate them so much. These guys are actually guys that work with us, right? They work with us, but they're here to serve you today, right? I appreciate you guys so much. They help. This is my family, guys. They spend Christmas at my house. We celebrate holidays together. I had never been in an environment where that happened. How many of you have that at your work environment? Sometimes you like to talk to the person sitting next to you. You're like, oh, did she get out of here? She's driving me crazy, right? But with these people, these lovely women and the men that I work with, when I prayed that prayer, this is what he delivered. He delivered this company to me, and he delivered these people to me. These people that every day get out of their beds, every single day. And we have 2 guarantees, every single day. So I'm happy every day I go to work, because here's my guarantee. Number 1, I'm going to educate somebody. Number 2, I'm going to change somebody's life. Can you say that when you get out of bed and when you go to work and what you do? Right? Some of you can, but most of us can't. So that is the guarantee I have every day. So can you imagine how excited I am every day when I wake up and I hit the floor? I'm like, yeah, what's happening today? Who are we going to talk to? Whose life are we going to change? So today, that's why I'm glad I'm here talking to you, because I know today I'm going to change your life. So I challenged you to meet 5 people, those of you that I challenged, because what did I tell you? I said meet 5 people, because one of those 5 people is going to change your life. Because I know every moment affects the next moment, right? And then I talk about finance. You see, then I came here. I had gone through that up and down in real estate, nearly lost everything that I owned, had gone into tremendous amounts of debt. And it's here where I learned how to get out of that debt. It's here where I learned how to get my finances under control. It's here where the company pushed me, celebrated me, gave me trips. Man, they took me to Costa Rica last year. Let me say, I will take some action. Somebody's got to step up to the plate. And I'm glad I've been granted the opportunity to step up to the plate. And before I leave this podium tonight, I want to share something with you, because I'm way over my time. I'm sorry, Fredo. But I want to share something with you guys. Fredo said something that was very important. I want to make sure that you catch it. I want to make sure when you leave here today, you take something home that you can share. Is that fair enough? So I'm going to give you a visual, right? I'm breaking a rule because they told me I'm not supposed to bring food in this room, right? Because it's a beautiful space. Isn't it beautiful? Thank you to our Borough President Eric Adams. Give him a hand, guys. His team is extraordinary. Sandra is extraordinary. Candy, thank you so much. We appreciate you. What is this? A strawberry, right? It's a strawberry. Fredo talked to you guys about taxes, and if you were a farmer. Did you guys remember that? When she brought that home. So let me bring that home for you guys. A strawberry has seeds where? On the outside. Would you say it's probably a couple hundred seeds on the strawberry? Right? So, if there are a couple hundred seeds on this strawberry, and she asked you this, if I said to you, here's a bag of strawberry seeds, right? This bag of strawberry seeds. I'm gonna tell you something. You know, we have the back of this building is beautiful, right? And they got that little park area, it's about an acre. I'm gonna give you that acre of land to go out there and plant these strawberry seeds. But you got 2 options. You ready? Option number 1, on this bag of strawberry seeds, you can pay me taxes today, right now, on this bag of strawberry seeds. Or you can go outside and plant them, and when every strawberry seed that goes in the ground, and every bush that comes up, and every strawberry that comes up, and every seed on every single strawberry, you can pay me taxes on your entire harvest. What time? Well, when would you want to pay me taxes? On this seed or on your beautiful harvest? Which time? On the seed, right? So I want you to understand, some of you have 401ks, 403Bs, 457s, some of you have those plans or know somebody that does. So let me give you a thought. So and Fredo gave this to you, but I think some of you had skipped over. So when you put your money in a 401k, 457, 403B, where are you going to pay taxes? Wow. Was that an aha moment for you? Was that an aha moment for you? And let me ask you a question. Is there a likelihood, let me ask you, are taxes going down or they're going up? All right. And is there a likelihood that we might have a bad harvest? You ever get a strawberry sometime it don't taste so good? Because it came from a bad harvest, right? but you're still gonna be paying taxes on that strawberry. Have a good night, ladies.
Let's give it up for these three powerful ladies. I love working with them every single day, and it's just such a great joy and a great pleasure. And as we close the evening out, first of all, I want to thank you so much for coming. I hope you got something today, whether it was meeting somebody or learning something tonight, but I challenge every single one of you to take action on something tonight. Take action on something in your life. One thing you'll notice about all the three women that came up here is they made a decision and did something about something, right? They made a decision and took action. And that's really what you need to do right now. We're passing around some survey cards. If you can go ahead and fill it out, because one of the things that we're going to do tonight, as you walk out and hand those filled out cards to the gentleman, is we're going to give you a rose, okay? Because we want to make you feel special tonight. And you'll also be receiving a financial certificate. And what that certificate entitles you to is a free 1-hour session to plan your financial future. So we want to make sure that you get that in place and that you take that action, and we're giving you the tools to be able to do it. And just so you know, in the industry, that typically has a fee of $500 to $2,500, depending on how much you're worth. But we're giving it to you tonight for free to thank you so much for coming here tonight and learning everything. So as you're making your way out, just give those cards to the gentleman. And again, we thank you so much for being here today. Enjoy.